78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, including people making $100,000 a year, including people you think are successful, including people who look like they have it all together. But here's the part that will blow your mind. Most of these people think they're doing fine financially. They think budgeting and cutting expenses will save them. They think their $1,000 emergency fund makes them secure. They're following advice from financial gurus who made their money selling books, not building wealth in the real world. And it's all complete bullshit. What I'm about to tell you will shatter everything you've been told about money. You've been fed lies by people who profit from keeping you small, keeping you scared, and keeping you broke. The truth is so simple, so obvious, yet so ignored that it will make you angry when you realize how long you've been living in financial fantasy land. The truth is this: you don't have a spending problem. You don't have a budgeting problem. You don't need another savings hack or coupon app. You have an income problem. And until you fix that, you're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic while your financial ship sinks. I'm about to take you through 8 brutal truths from Matt Manero's You Need More Money. Truths that will expose the financial industry's biggest lies and show you the only real path to financial security in today's economy. By the end of this video, you'll understand why everything you've been taught about money is wrong. And, more importantly, what you need to do about it. This isn't comfortable. This isn't what you want to hear, but it's what you need to hear if you ever want to stop worrying about money and start living the life you actually want. Chapter 1: The Emergency Fund Myth. Why $1,000 won't save you. Let me tell you about Sarah Chen, a nurse making $72,000 a year who thought she was financially responsible. Sarah had done everything the financial gurus told her to do. She had her $1,000 emergency fund. She was paying off debt using the debt snowball method. She was living on a strict budget, tracking every penny. Sarah felt proud of her financial discipline. She felt secure. She felt like she was finally getting her life together. Then her car broke down. The repair bills? $2,800. Her emergency fund covered barely a third of it. She had to put the rest on a credit card, completely destroying months of debt progress. But that was just the beginning of her financial nightmare. 2 weeks later, her daughter broke her arm at school. Even with insurance, the medical bills were $1,500. Another credit card hit. The next month, her apartment's air conditioning unit died in the middle of summer. Her landlord said she had to pay for the replacement. Another $900. In 6 weeks, Sarah went from feeling financially secure to being $3,400 deeper in debt. Her emergency fund was a joke in the face of real emergencies. Here's what Matt Manero realized that most financial advisors refuse to admit. $1,000 doesn't cover emergencies in 2024. It covers minor inconveniences. Real emergencies cost $5,000, $10,000, or $20,000. Car accidents, medical crises, job losses, family emergencies, these aren't $1,000 problems. And when you're living paycheck to paycheck with a tiny emergency fund, you're not prepared for real life. But here's the part that will make you angry. The financial industry knows this. They know $1,000 won't protect you. But they keep pushing this advice because it makes you feel good about taking baby steps while keeping you trapped in the cycle of financial vulnerability. Manero's brutal truth. You don't need a $1,000 emergency fund. You need $50,000 in liquid cash minimum. Anything less is financial Russian roulette. You're gambling that life won't hit you with a real crisis, and eventually you're going to lose that bet. The people who tell you otherwise are either lying to you or living in a fantasy world where real emergencies don't exist. Chapter 2. The Budget Scam. Why cutting expenses keeps you poor. Marcus Williams was the king of budgeting. He tracked every dollar, used every coupon app, negotiated every bill. Marcus could tell you exactly how much he spent on groceries, gas, and entertainment, down to the penny. He was living on $3,200 a month and felt proud that he was living below his means. Marcus was also miserable and getting nowhere financially. After 2 years of extreme budgeting, Marcus had managed to save $2,400. That's $100 a month. At that rate, it would take him 42 years to save enough for a basic emergency fund. Forget about retirement or financial freedom. Meanwhile, Marcus was spending 20 hours a week managing his budget, hunting for deals, and stressing about every purchase. He'd turned his entire life into a poverty mindset focused on scarcity and limitation. Here's what Matt Manero discovered that the budgeting industry doesn't want you to know. There's a mathematical limit to how much you can cut, but there's no limit to how much you can earn. Let's say you make $60,000 a year and you're a budgeting ninja. You cut your expenses to the bone and live on $45,000. You've saved $15,000. Impressive. But what happens when you've cut everything? You're done. You've hit the ceiling. Now let's say instead of spending 2 years obsessing over budgets, you spent that same time and energy increasing your income from $60,000 to $100,000. You've increased your earning power by $40,000 annually. Even if you increase your spending to $60,000, you're still saving $40,000, nearly 3 times more than the budgeting approach. But the financial industry keeps pushing budgeting because it keeps you focused on small thinking. They want you cutting coupons instead of increasing your value. They want you tracking pennies instead of making dollars. Manero's revelation changed everything. Poor people focus on cutting expenses. Rich people focus on increasing income. The math is simple, but the mindset shift is everything. Marcus finally understood this. He stopped tracking every coffee purchase and started tracking his career growth. He stopped negotiating his cable bill and started negotiating his salary. He stopped looking for ways to save $20 and started looking for ways to earn $2,000. Within 18 months, Marcus doubled his income. He now saves more in a month than he used to save in a year, and he doesn't stress about buying coffee or taking his girlfriend to dinner. That's the difference between expense thinking and income thinking. One keeps you poor and stressed. The other makes you wealthy and free. Chapter 3. The Salary Trap. Why? Your good job is keeping you broke. Jessica Martinez thought she'd made it. After graduating college with a business degree, she landed a job at a Fortune 500 company, making $55,000 a year. Her parents were proud. Her friends were envious. Jessica felt successful. 5 years later, Jessica was making $63,000, an average raise of 2.9% per year, barely keeping up with inflation. She was still living in the same small apartment, still driving the same old car, still stressed about money every month. Jessica had fallen into what Manero calls the salary trap. The lie that climbing the corporate ladder will make you wealthy. Here's the brutal math that nobody talks about. If you start at $50,000 and get 3% raises every year, after 20 years, you'll be making $90,305. Sounds good, right? Wrong. With inflation, that $90,305 has the same buying power as $54,243 today. After 20 years of career growth, Jessica would actually be poorer in real terms than when she started. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is what Jessica could have earned if she'd thought like an entrepreneur instead of an employee. While Jessica was getting her 3% annual raises, her college roommate Lisa was building a social media marketing agency. Lisa started making $30,000 her first year, $25,000 less than Jessica. But Lisa's income wasn't capped by corporate pay scales and annual review processes. Year 2, Lisa made $78,000. Year 3, Lisa made $145,000. Year 4, Lisa made $145,000, $230,000. Year 5, Lisa made $380,000, while Jessica had increased her income by $380,000. $8,000 over 5 years, Lisa had increased hers by $350,000. Lisa was now making 6 times what Jessica made, and the gap was growing every year. The difference wasn't intelligence, education, or luck. The difference was mindset. Jessica had traded her potential for the illusion of security. Lisa had bet on herself and her ability to create value in the marketplace. Manero's research revealed something shocking. The highest-paid employees at most companies make less than the lowest-paid successful entrepreneurs in the same industry. A senior marketing director at a Fortune 500 company might make $120,000. A mediocre marketing agency owner makes $300,000. Same skills, same market, completely different results. The only difference is who captures the value they create. When you're an employee, you create value, and your company captures most of it, paying you a small fraction. When you're an entrepreneur, you create value, and you capture it directly. Jessica finally realized this truth when she calculated that her marketing campaigns had generated over $2 million in revenue for her company the previous year. Her reward, a $2,000 bonus and a 3% raise, that was her wake-up call. Jessica started freelance consulting on weekends, using the same skills she used at her job. Within 6 months, she was making more from her weekend consulting than from her full-time job. Within a year, she'd quit and was running her own agency. Today, Jessica makes more in a month than she used to make in 6 months as an employee. She's not smarter than she was before. She just stopped accepting artificial limits on her income. Chapter 4. The Debt Avalanche Delusion. Why paying off debt is costing you millions. Robert Kim was $47,000 in debt and following the debt avalanche method religiously. He was paying minimums on everything except his highest interest credit card, throwing every extra dollar at that 22% APR balance. Financial advisors praised his discipline. Online forums cheered his progress updates. Robert was making a massive financial mistake that would cost him millions. Here's what Robert was doing. He was putting every extra dollar, about $800 a month, toward debt payments. His plan would have him debt-free in 4.2 years, saving him $18,000 in interest. Robert felt proud of his mathematical approach. Here's what Robert could have been doing: taking that same $800 monthly and investing it while making minimum payments on his debt. Let me show you the math that will blow your mind. Robert's way. Debt avalanche. Debt paid off in 4.2 years. Interest saved, $18,000. Investment account after 4.2 years, $0. Net worth improvement, $18,000. Investment first approach, $800 monthly invested at 10% average return. Investment value after 4.2 years, $48,300. Debt still owed, $47,000. Net worth improvement, $1,300. Wait, that looks worse, right? Here's where it gets interesting. After 10 years total, Robert's way. Debt-free for 5.8 years, saving $800 per month since then. Investment account, $67,400. Net worth, $67,400. Investment first approach, still paying minimums, investing $800 per month for full 10 years. Investment account, $157,800. Debt remaining, $32,000. Net worth, $125,800. Robert's obsession with debt cost him $58,400 in just 10 years. After 20 years, the gap becomes astronomical. The investment-first approach produces a net worth that's $380,000 higher than the debt avalanche approach. But here's the part that really matters. Matt Manero discovered that people obsessed with debt payoff develop what he calls debt trauma, a psychological condition that makes them terrified of any debt, even good debt. These people avoid mortgages, business loans, and other forms of leverage that wealthy people use to build wealth faster. They become so debt-averse that they actually limit their wealth-building potential for life. Meanwhile, every wealthy person Manero studied used debt strategically. They understood that debt is a tool, not an emergency. They used other people's money to buy assets that depreciated faster than their debt costs. Robert finally learned this lesson when he met his millionaire neighbor, who owned 3 rental properties worth $1.2 million total. The neighbor owed $800,000 on those properties, but was generating $4,000 monthly in positive cash flow. His debt was actually making him wealthy. That's when Robert realized the goal isn't to be debt-free. The goal is to use debt to build wealth faster than you could with just cash. Robert stopped obsessing over debt payoff and started obsessing over income and investments. He kept his debt, started investing, and within 3 years had built enough wealth that his debt payments became insignificant. The debt avalanche method is financial advice for people who want to stay middle class forever. Wealthy people understand that debt is fuel for wealth building when used correctly. Chapter 5. The Retirement Scam. Why 401ks are designed to keep you working until you die. Tom Bradley had been contributing to his 401k for 25 years. He was the poster child for retirement planning, maxing out his contributions, getting the company match, diversifying his investments. Tom had $340,000 saved and felt like he was on track for a comfortable retirement. Then Tom did the math on what his retirement would actually look like. The results were terrifying. Using the standard 4% withdrawal rule, Tom's $340,000 would provide $13,600 annually in retirement income. Even if he doubled his account to $680,000 by retirement, that's only $27,200 per year. Tom was currently spending $65,000 annually. Even with Social Security, he was looking at a 60% pay cut in retirement. Tom realized he'd been planning for 25 years to become poor when he got old. This is what Matt Manero calls the retirement scam, the lie that traditional retirement accounts will provide financial security. Here's the brutal truth about 401ks that nobody tells you. They were never designed to fund your entire retirement. They were created by companies to shift the burden of retirement funding from employers to employees. Before $401,000, companies provided pensions that paid you a guaranteed income for life. Now, they just match a few $1,000s of your contributions and call it even. The financial industry loves 401ks because they generate massive fees. The average 401k charges 1 to 2% in annual fees, which doesn't sound like much until you realize it cuts your retirement wealth by 20 to 40% over your career. But here's the part that will make you angry. The same amount of money invested differently could make you wealthy instead of just retirement ready. Let's compare Tom's approach with what Manero calls the wealth approach. Tom's 401k approach: $800 monthly contributions for 25 years. Account value, $680,000, assuming 7% returns after fees. Annual retirement income, $27,200. Financial status: still need to work or live in poverty. Wealth approach: same $800 monthly, $400 to tax-advantaged accounts, Roth IRA, HSA, $400 to investment real estate down payments. After 25 years, $340,000 in retirement accounts, plus $2.1 million in real estate equity, plus $8,000 monthly rental income. Total wealth, $2.44 million. Annual passive income, $96,000. Financial status: genuinely wealthy and free. Same money, completely different outcome. The difference is that Tom was planning for retirement, while the wealth approach was planning for freedom. Manero discovered that wealthy people don't actually retire in the traditional sense. They build assets that generate enough passive income to make work optional. They achieve financial independence decades before traditional retirement age. The cruel irony is that people who follow traditional retirement advice work longer and have less money than people who ignore that advice and focus on building wealth. Tom finally understood this when he calculated that at his current savings rate, he'd need to work until age 73 to have enough money for a modest retirement. Meanwhile, his friend who owned rental properties had achieved financial independence at 45. That's when Tom stopped thinking about retirement and started thinking about wealth. He stopped maximizing his 401k and started maximizing his income. He stopped buying mutual funds and started buying real estate. Traditional retirement planning is designed to keep you working until you're too old to enjoy life. Wealth building is designed to give you freedom while you're young enough to use it. Chapter 6. The Investment Lie. Why index funds are making you poor. Amanda Foster was a diligent investor. She'd read all the books, listened to all the podcasts. She was dollar-cost averaging into low-cost index funds every month, just like every financial advisor recommended. Amanda felt smart, responsible, and patient. After 12 years of disciplined investing, Amanda had accumulated $180,000 in her index fund portfolio. She felt proud of her progress and confident in her strategy. Then Amanda met Carlos, who had started investing the same year she did, with roughly the same amount of money. Carlos's portfolio was worth $750,000. How was this possible? Amanda had fallen for what Matt Manero calls the index fund trap, the lie that passive investing in diversified funds is the best way to build wealth. Here's what Amanda didn't understand. Index funds are designed to give you average returns, and average returns produce average wealth. If you want extraordinary wealth, you need extraordinary returns. Carlos understood this. Instead of buying index funds, Carlos bought individual stocks of companies he researched and believed in. Instead of diversifying across 500 companies, Carlos concentrated his investments in 10 to 15 companies he understood deeply. While Amanda was getting 7 to 8% average returns from her index funds, Carlos was getting 15 to 20% returns from his concentrated stock picks. Over 12 years, that difference compounded into Carlos having 4 times more wealth. But stocks weren't Carlos's only strategy. Carlos also invested in real estate, cryptocurrency, and even started his own business. Carlos understood that wealthy people don't put all their money in one asset class, no matter how diversified it appears. Manero's research revealed something shocking. Most millionaires built their wealth through concentrated bets, not diversified portfolios. They became wealthy by being right about 1 or 2 big things, not by being average at everything. The financial industry pushes index funds because they're easy to sell and generate steady fees. They don't care if you become wealthy. They just want your monthly contributions. Here's the brutal truth about index fund investing. It's designed to make you comfortable, not wealthy. It's designed to prevent you from losing money, not to help you make life-changing amounts of money. Amanda finally realized this when she calculated that at her current pace, she'd have about $800,000 by retirement age. Sounds good until you realize that $800,000 in 20 years will have the buying power of about $400,000 today, due to inflation. Amanda had been working for 12 years to build enough money to be poor in retirement. That's when Amanda changed her strategy. She stopped dollar-cost averaging into index funds and started researching individual investments. She bought rental properties, invested in growth companies, and even put some money into alternative investments. Within 3 years, Amanda's portfolio performance had tripled. She was finally building wealth instead of just saving money. Index funds are perfect if your goal is to not lose money. But if your goal is to build wealth, you need to think like an investor, not a saver. You need to take calculated risks, not hide in diversified mediocrity. The wealthy understand this. That's why they're wealthy. And index fund investors are still working jobs they hate, dreaming about retirement. Chapter 7. The Income Explosion. How to double your earnings in 24 months. Kevin Park was stuck at $55,000 a year as a graphic designer. He'd been at the same company for 4 years, getting small raises that barely covered inflation. Kevin felt trapped. He needed more money, but didn't know how to get it without starting over in a new career. Then Kevin learned the income explosion method that changed everything. Matt Manero discovered that most people are sitting on income gold mines without realizing it. They have skills, knowledge, and experience that others will pay premium prices for, but they're trading those assets for hourly wages instead of monetizing them directly. Kevin's breakthrough came when he realized he had 3 monetizable assets he'd been giving away for free. Asset 1, his graphic design skills. Asset 2, his knowledge of social media marketing. Asset 3, his network of small business owners from previous jobs. Instead of trading his time for money at his job, Kevin started leveraging these assets to create multiple income streams. Income Stream 1, freelance graphic design on weekends. Kevin started doing logo design and branding for small businesses. Instead of charging $25 per hour like he made at his job, Kevin charged $1,500 to $3,000 per project. Same skills, completely different pricing model. Income Stream 2, social media consulting. Kevin noticed that many small businesses had terrible social media presence. He started offering social media strategy consulting for $150 per hour. Businesses gladly paid because his advice generated customers. Income Stream 3, digital course creation. Kevin created an online course teaching small business owners how to design their own marketing materials. The course sold for $297 and required no ongoing time investment after creation. Within 6 months, Kevin was making more from his side businesses than from his full-time job. Within 12 months, he quit his job entirely. Within 24 months, Kevin was earning $180,000 annually, more than triple his original salary. Kevin's story isn't unique. Manero found that most people can double or triple their income within 24 months by simply monetizing skills they already have. The key is shifting from employee mindset to entrepreneur mindset. Instead of trading time for money, you trade value for money. Instead of having one income source controlled by someone else, you create multiple income sources controlled by you. Here's the income explosion formula that Kevin used. Step 1. Identify your monetizable skills. What do you know that others would pay to learn? What problems can you solve that others can't? What connections do you have that could benefit others? Step 2. Package your skills into sellable services. Instead of charging hourly, create project-based pricing. Instead of selling your time, sell outcomes and results. Step 3. Scale beyond trading time for money. Create products, courses, or systems that generate income without requiring your direct time investment. The difference between Kevin and people who stay trapped in low-paying jobs isn't talent or luck. It's understanding that your income is limited only by your ability to create and capture value. Most people work in the economy, trading their time for someone else's money. Wealthy people work on the economy, creating systems that generate money while they sleep. Kevin now makes more in a month than he used to make in 6 months, and he works fewer hours than when he had his corporate job. That's the power of income explosion. Chapter 8, The Cash Fortress, Building Unbreakable Financial Security. Maria Santos had always been terrified of financial insecurity. Growing up poor, she'd seen how quickly life could destroy a family's finances. When Maria finally started making good money as a software engineer, she became obsessed with building what Matt Manero calls the cash fortress, an unbreakable foundation of financial security. Most people think financial security means having some savings and a steady job. Maria learned that real financial security requires something much more substantial, multiple layers of financial protection that can withstand any crisis. Here's the cash fortress system that Maria built. Layer 1, liquid cash reserves, $50,000 minimum. Maria kept 6 months of expenses in high-yield savings accounts. But unlike the traditional emergency fund advice, Maria's cash reserves weren't just for emergencies. They were for opportunities. When a great investment appeared, or her business needed capital, Maria had cash ready to deploy immediately. Layer 2, multiple income streams. Maria's income came from 4 different sources: her software engineering job, freelance consulting, a rental property, and a small online business. If any one source disappeared, she still had 3 others supporting her. Layer 3, hard assets. Maria invested in assets that held value regardless of economic conditions: real estate, precious metals, and stocks in essential businesses. These weren't just investments. They were wealth preservation strategies. Layer 4, skills and network. Maria continuously developed high-demand skills and built relationships with successful people. She understood that in a crisis, your skills and connections are often more valuable than your bank account. Layer 5, geographic and currency diversification. Maria kept money in accounts in different countries and owned assets denominated in different currencies. She understood that political and economic instability could affect any single country or currency. This might sound extreme, but Manero's research showed that truly wealthy people always build fortress-level financial security. They understand that wealth without security is just gambling. The 2008 financial crisis proved this point perfectly. People with single income sources lost everything. People with diversified cash fortresses not only survived, but thrived by buying assets at discounted prices while everyone else was panicking. Maria's cash fortress was tested 3 years later when the company she worked for was acquired and her position was eliminated. Instead of panicking, Maria saw opportunity. She used her severance package and cash reserves to start her own consulting business, targeting the exact market she'd been serving as an employee. Because Maria had fortress-level security, she could take risks that others couldn't afford. She could negotiate from strength instead of desperation. She could think long-term instead of just surviving day to day. Within 2 years, Maria's consulting business was generating more income than her old job, and she had multiple clients instead of depending on one employer. Her cash fortress had given her the freedom to become truly wealthy. This is what separates wealthy people from everyone else. They build security first, then use that security to take calculated risks that create more wealth. Poor people take desperate risks because they have no security. Middle-class people avoid all risks because they have just enough security to be afraid of losing it. Wealthy people build massive security so they can take intelligent risks without fear. They understand that true financial freedom comes from having so much security that you can afford to be opportunistic instead of reactive. Maria's cash fortress didn't just protect her wealth, it multiplied her wealth by giving her the confidence and resources to pursue opportunities that others couldn't access. Your financial revolution starts now. Everything you've just heard should make you angry. Angry at the lies you've been told. Angry at the time you've wasted following bad advice. Angry at the system that profits from keeping you financially weak. But anger without action is worthless. So, here's what you're going to do right now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Right now. First, you're going to admit the truth. Your current financial strategy isn't working. If it was working, you wouldn't be watching videos about money on YouTube. You'd be wealthy already. Stop lying to yourself about being on track when you're actually falling behind every year. Second, you're going to stop thinking small. Stop obsessing over lattes and cable bills. Stop celebrating $1,000 emergency funds when real emergencies cost $10,000. Stop planning for a retirement where you'll be poor. Your problems require massive solutions, not tiny adjustments. Third, you're going to focus on income explosion, not expense reduction. Every hour you spend cutting costs is an hour you could have spent increasing your earnings. The math is simple. There's a limit to how much you can cut, but there's no limit to how much you can earn. Fourth, you're going to build a cash fortress, not a financial house of cards. Real security requires real money, at least $50,000 in liquid cash, multiple income streams, and hard assets that protect your wealth from inflation and economic chaos. Fifth, you're going to start thinking like an investor, not a saver. Wealthy people use money to make money. Poor people use money to buy things. Middle-class people save money in accounts that lose value to inflation. Which one are you going to be? Here's your specific action plan for the next 30 days. Week 1. Calculate your real financial position. Add up everything you own minus everything you owe. Face the truth about where you actually stand. Week 2. Identify your monetizable skills and start creating your first additional income stream. Stop trading time for money and start trading value for money. Week 3. Stop all non-essential expenses and redirect that money toward building your cash fortress. Every dollar not building your fortress is a dollar wasted on comfort that's keeping you poor. Week 4. Start learning about real investments, real estate, businesses, stocks of companies you understand. Stop putting money into index funds that guarantee you'll stay middle class forever. But here's the most important thing. You need to understand that this isn't just about money. This is about freedom. This is about dignity. This is about having choices instead of being trapped by circumstances. Every day you delay taking action is another day you're choosing to stay financially weak. Every month you follow conventional financial advice is another month you're falling further behind people who understand how money really works. The people who get rich aren't smarter than you. They aren't luckier than you. They aren't more talented than you. They just stopped believing the lies that keep most people poor and started following the principles that actually create wealth. You have 2 choices right now. Choice 1. Close this video, go back to your normal routine, and continue following the same advice that's kept you financially stressed for years. Keep budgeting. Keep saving in low-interest accounts. Keep hoping that tiny changes will somehow create massive results. Choice 2. Admit that everything you've been told about money is wrong. Get angry about the time you've wasted and start building real wealth using the principles you just learned. The choice is yours. But understand this: choosing to do nothing is making a choice. You're choosing to stay where you are. You're choosing to accept financial mediocrity. You're choosing to keep trading your life for money instead of making money work for you. Your financial revolution starts the moment you decide you've had enough of being broke, stressed, and trapped by money problems that shouldn't even exist. The question isn't whether you can change your financial life. The question is whether you will. The time for excuses is over. The time for action is now. Your wealthy future is waiting for you to claim it. What are you going to do?